Have you ever wondered how a narcissist reacts when faced with rejection? When you start pushing back on them and you're like, nope, I don't want this anymore. Maybe you saw the rage or the black eyes or how much they responded to the fact when you started to reject them. Maybe you got to the place where you said, I'm blocking you, I'm ghosting you. Like, this isn't happening anymore. We're not communicating. And you saw how much they lashed out or how they responded in really a negative way. And so we're going to dive in and break down some of the pieces of a narcissist and rejection, the different pieces and patterns that we see around this topic. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations and your guide in the 7-day challenge for $7 that's found at escapetoxicity.com. There you can start to understand, am I a narcissist? Is he a narcissist? Like, what about my abuse that I did? Is that reactive abuse? What does that actually look like? Just to get clarity of where you are and start to understand how we teach and the plan moving forward in your healing, your growth, your change, and your development. When we talk through this piece of rejection, I want to be really clear of kind of where we're talking about and what we're oscillating back and forth on. You have narcissistic personality disorder, that the underlying fear, the underlying thing that they're trying to avoid, the defense mechanism that's built on is shame avoidance. How do I avoid shame at all costs of the incongruency of the mask that I build versus what's underneath? Then a close neighbor to that inside the cluster B categories in the DSM-5 is borderline personality disorder, which goes under the aspect of the main fear and defense mechanism that comes from that is abandonment. Okay, of being afraid of being abandoned, of all those different aspects it's going to look like, but that's one of the biggest pieces under there. Now, you have narcissism with shame underneath, as like I normally describe as the raging river compelling a lot of the actions under narcissism. Then you have borderline, and the raging river underneath that is abandonment. How these two are actually connected, I would phrase as being through the stream of rejection, of where it can be very similar of that rejection brings about shame and that rejection brings about abandonment. So some of this you might be like, this sounds a little bit, it could be either way. Yes, because a lot of it, I think, crosses over when we talk through the aspect of rejection. But we're mainly going to be looking at narcissism. So when we talk through the aspect of narcissism, you need to understand first and foremost that narcissists have a fragile ego. Period. Like, we don't have a very strong ego. It just seems like we do. Okay, so for a narcissist, it seems like, wow, this person is amazing, or this person like knows and they have so much confidence. A lot of it is a facade. A lot of it is a mask that has been built to protect them from who they actually are inside. Okay, that's not a woe is the narcissist. I'm just saying, hey, that's where it came from. Rejection then poses this significant threat to the narcissist's self-image. You see, if I'm so amazing and you reject me, then, oh, what's wrong with me? It can't be wrong with me. It has to be something wrong with you. But there's an opportunity of like, oh, something might be wrong. Something might not look good to other people because we were together for so many years and now you've left me. Now I look like the bad person. Now I have to put it of like, you rejected me. Now I'm the victim. Like, it has to go back around to the narcissist. This whole aspect of rejection ends up being a threat to their self-image, a threat to the superiority. Like, the ego can't tolerate this form of criticism, can't tolerate perceived rejection, can't tolerate actual rejection. And when you reject the narcissist, a narcissist may experience what's known as narcissistic injury. Now, side note, because I believe sometimes people have this a little bit more skewed than what they actually believe. When you reject a narcissist, this isn't something that is always going to cause a narcissistic injury. You're like, yeah, I told him no today. I don't really believe a lot of that is narcissistic injury. A lot of it can be perceived as that, and a lot of people think like, oh, I told him, so therefore this happened, when in reality, a lot of times the narcissist doesn't care as much. Now, do they care? You said no, 100%. Did it cause an injury to make them spiral out? A lot of times, not really. It's just like, you went up against my authority, so therefore I don't like you anymore. Like, let me give you all hell to pay, so because of what you did. But not necessarily narcissistic injury. Narcissistic injury with me would be more of these intense emotional reactions that oftentimes would come from exposure, that oftentimes would come from like completely exposing to everybody all at the same time, so they have nowhere actually to stand. This is where narcissists will have a narcissistic collapse, where they kind of spiral out. Just sometimes people talk about like narcissistic injury of like, I said no and that gave him an injury. I'm like, not really, because he doesn't connect the same way as you do about those feelings, about those emotions. Okay. So side note, random. Think of it this way. You get to a place where you're like, okay, I'm going to end this relationship with a narcissist. And all of a sudden he lashes back out with anger, with blame, with manipulation, with gaslighting, like trying to make you believe that you're at fault for the relationship. Like you're the one that's at fault for breaking you guys up. You're the one at fault for doing all these things. Okay, because the idea is like it has to be on you. It can't be on the narcissist. It has to be on you. Okay, if it's on the narcissist, then that reveals the guilt and the shame, all the things that they want to hide from. So it has to be someone else's fault. Now, one of the other pieces with rejection is moving into devaluation and discard. Like you just rejected me, I'm going to switch from this idea of idealizing you to devaluing you. Like you just did something that I didn't like. You just did something that pushed me away. You just did something that rejected me. So therefore, that pedestal you've been sitting on that I built for such a long period of time in the love bombing is getting taken away. It's gone. You can't get it anymore. There's no way you can get back on upon it. It's gone. Okay, so then they start to belittle you, devalue you, put you down. And you start to think like, oh, like what did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. You probably held them accountable or you tried to get free, whatever it might be. It's like I have to do whatever I can to protect the ego. And if I do that by bringing you down lower, then I feel better about myself. We see this with guys with women who produce more, who make more money, who run businesses. They try to bring them down so they feel better about themselves. Like if that's you, you're like, hey, I can run a business really well, but I feel like I can't make a single decision. And your confidence is shot. That's why we help work with people to help them get back to that state by getting rid of the emotional bond, the trauma bond, the rumination, the triggers, the limiting beliefs that get placed upon them from the relationship that sideline them from the business that they currently run. So you're going to have a narcissist that belittles, devalues, and puts you down. Of like, what I need to do, okay, I need to bring you down. If I can't do that to the right extent or to the extent where the narcissist feels better, then boom, you're gone. Got to be able to get rid of you. All right, think of it this way. You've communicated, hey, I need some space. I need some time to myself. Like we're together 24/7. I need to be able to have friends. Like I need to be able to connect. How do you respond? He might have responded of devaluing you, calling you names, asserting that you're insignificant without him, like that you need him, that I thought you loved me, all these different pieces, okay? Or it could be, sure, go ahead, that's amazing. And then you get the silent treatment for a couple days. And you're like, was that because of this? Did I do something wrong? And it starts to make you doubt. The whole goal is like to make you doubt your reality so the narcissist can control and manipulate and manufacture their own reality that you have to be a part of. So then you move into the piece of seeking alternate sources of supply. Okay, you reject me, I'm going to put you down, I'm going to get rid of you, and I'm also going to find someone else. Okay, oftentimes this is where you see the cheating happen. You see the narcissist that's already doing this even before this, but you see the cheating happen here of like, let me seek out other people as quick as I can so that it bolsters my ego. This is why a lot of times narcissists run really well in the workplace, because the workplace, they only see a certain version of the narcissist. So like, I'm just going to go to work because at work, people respect me. Well, the reason they respect you is because you're not an abusive asshole at work. Okay, you're just that way at home. So there's a difference because someone's actually seen behind your mask and you don't like it. So therefore you have to make sure that you belittle her, that you put her down. Like this could involve narcissists like trying to find other sources of ego. This could be like finding new romantic partners. It could be attention-seeking behaviors. It could be surrounding themselves with people who just provide validation when they crave it. When they're like, this is what I want, and people give it. Okay, much like a workplace environment. So you're going to see different pieces of this. Like, let me just get whatever I can from whoever, however I do it. Okay. Then sometimes you'll have the last piece I want to touch on just really quick is just manipulation and also hoovering. Of like, you rejected me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hoover you back into the relationship so that I can reject you. We've seen this happen multiple times. When you leave a narcissist, sometimes the main goal for them is just to get back with you so that they have a chance to be able to rewrite the story. To get a story that seems better in their mind than the actual truth and the facts of the situation that you left because of how they were showing up abusive. So they do whatever I can. Let me get away from this. Let me change the narrative so that I look good. But the whole idea is like to try to suck you back into the relationship, to try to get you stuck, to then go through the whole process of getting back into control over you or rejecting you at the same time. So I want you to think of this as a narcissist does not handle rejection well at all. But this is also why it's essential for as you move forward, to you get to the place where you go no contact. Because any level below that, when you reject, is typically going to get hoovered, manipulated, gaslit, all different of these things we talked about are going to come back at you. Because the narcissist wants to preserve his image. How he looks to the world is more important than how you feel about it, than the things you're struggling with. It's more important that he looks like a good person no matter what. So he's going to do whatever he can to look that way over and over and over again. Hopefully this is making sense, just breaking through and understanding the piece of rejection. If you want more help with this, you can go to rawmotivations.com. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, we'd love to have you jump into our Escape Toxicity Challenge. Go to escapetoxicity.com today. It's short. It's a 7-day challenge for $7 that helps get you started understanding narcissistic abuse, reactive abuse, the guilt and shame of being with a narcissist. Like, was it you? Do you have narcissistic traits? What does that look like? All those things we discuss, and also put you in the same room with other people who are going through the same questions at the same time. Have you noticed a sudden shift in your narcissistic partner's intimacy level? Yeah. We're going to be jumping into narcissists no longer being intimate, and what are the possibilities of it being cheating, of it being pornography? What does it actually look like on a day-to-day basis? How does it actually change things in your relationship? Maybe there's some things, even in this video, you can highlight and be like, oh, maybe this is happening. Okay, maybe you're wondering if their actions could be attributed to external factors, maybe cheating, maybe porn, and we're going to dive into that. Okay, so join me as we dive into the complex world of narcissistic behavior and the connection to diminishing intimacy in the relationship. How it shows up, how it affects, how it controls, all different pieces like that. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations and your guide in the 7-day challenge that you can access at escapetoxicity.com. 7 days for $7 to help you just understand more about narcissistic abuse. Like, are you the narcissist? What is narcissism? Like, how do I deal with the guilt and the shame? How do I actually work through like the trauma bond? We start laying out the groundwork for you to understand how to be able to move forward. So if you watch any of my videos and you're like, I don't know about this guy. He's a narcissist, but he's trying to help people. Check out the 7-day challenge. It's $7. You can see how we teach. So talking through this aspect of narcissists that slowly pull away from intimacy. And they slowly pull away of actually being connected with you. Now, this doesn't typically happen just randomly. It typically has a cause and effect. It typically has this first aspect of pulling away emotionally, and then oftentimes physically as well. It could be reversed, but that's typically the order that happens. So narcissists typically have self-centered nature, right? Like it's all about me, myself, and I. Like, it has to be about me, not anybody else, all that kind of stuff. But this extends into intimacy. This extends into your connection. This extends into your emotion, extends into your sexual relationship. And as the initial pieces fade, the love bombing, the charm, the infatuation, as it starts to fade, oftentimes they're less and less interested in you as a whole. Now, they're less interested in you emotionally, maybe less interested in you sexually, maybe less interested just in building any type of connection. See, sometimes what happens with the narcissist is they build a connection up to a certain level and then that's it. Like capped out, maxed out, because the next level would require another level of honesty. That level of honesty is too exposing, is too vulnerable, and the narcissist is like, I don't want to do this. You see this oftentimes in a narcissistic relationship that woos you and gets with you and does this amazing job of connecting with you up until marriage or engagement or a pivotal moment. And then it switches. Then it changes. Then it gets to the place where it flips and it starts to disappear. It starts to become different. It starts to slowly devalue and change. Sometimes it's like a light bulb where it completely changes really rapidly. This happens a lot of times for narcissists. They're infatuated with the chase. Let me get with this person. Let me be with this person. I want to trap them in the relationship. And then they get you and they don't know what to do with you. Like they're lost in the aspect of like, I built all of this on a shifting foundation, on a bunch of falsehoods, on a bunch of stuff I made up just to get them in the relationship. Now what I do? And typically they don't know. So they'll typically try to find, maybe if I just do it again, maybe if I build this with someone else, maybe if I find someone on the side, all these different things to be able to keep that facade going and to find another outlet of them trying to find this intimacy that they're not really being intimate because they're not really being honest. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment. Okay, but when we're talking about this piece of the initial charm fades, they become less interested, like they're only going to focus more on them. So the love bombing phase, then we move from idealization into devaluation, and then it becomes solely about them. Not that it wasn't to start off with, but now you see it more and more and more. So you get to the place where you start to realize he's been pulling away for a bit of time. Like he's become more distant, he's become more uninterested in you. In emotionally, sexually, preferring to spend time in whatever else. It might be his own interests, it might be hobbies, it might be other people. You oftentimes have no clue. It's just like, why am I not attractive anymore? Why is he not coming towards me? Why does he not care about me? Why does he not love me? What does he not find me? Like all these thoughts sort of going through your head. So one of the aspects that is typical in toxic relationships is pornography. Okay, pornography for a lot of narcissists has this allure of like, this can help fix me or fill me up or give me the high that I want in the moment. Now, the thing is, they'll get with someone, they'll love them to a certain degree, they'll be like, oh, this is amazing, love bombing, all these things, and then it's like, it's still not doing everything that I want, but I've got this other outlet. I've got pornography. Let me look at that. Now, there's not a lot of couples that pornography infiltrates into the couple's life and it's a healthy relationship, especially if it's being a secret on one side or the other. So oftentimes this allure will help the narcissist be like, oh, if I do this, it'll complete the lack of intimacy that I'm getting from this person. But it becomes a constant need. Oftentimes it becomes an obsession or even an addiction. Sometimes an addiction that the narcissist hides under. Well, I'm a sex addict, so you might as well give me sex. But the constant need of validation and novelty drives them towards seeking pleasures outside of the relationship. Let me keep doing stuff that's going to get me certain pleasure, certain joy, and it leads to a decline in emotional and physical intimacy in the relationship. Because it's hard, because he's comparing other women's bodies to yours. Like he's comparing sexual encounters that he's seeing online that are oftentimes fake and phony, but he's seeing all these things online to you. You're not going to compare to some of those things. Why? Because he hasn't even created a safe place for you to even show up in a way that would be attractive to you and to him in a safe environment. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? The narcissist will make you feel unsafe in the things that he wants you to do, often because he's already experiencing and doing all those things on the side in the aspect of pornography. Well, I saw this, so let me try this. And you're like, whoa, this doesn't feel good. This isn't what I want. He doesn't care. He just wants to recreate what he's already in his mind. He's not even thinking about you. He's thinking about that particular feeling or idea or thought that came from the porn. But all it does is it starts to break apart the relationship. It starts to lead to this disconnection. And so you start to realize like, hey, I think he's been obsessed with pornography. Maybe you found out about it. Maybe you stumbled upon it and realized that it's a problem and it's been causing this huge reduction in physical intimacy. And overall, just destroying your emotional connection. Now, pornography a lot of times is the stepping stone to cheating. Some narcissists are like, yeah, no, I'd never cheat. But they look at pornography. Some people classify that as cheating, not cheating, whatever. It's not going to help the relationship typically. Okay, but then oftentimes that mental and emotional like idea of like, oh, let me look at this, only serves for a short period of time. Then it has to up the ante. Then it has to look better. And it has to feel better. Then the narcissist has to get with that person. Not necessarily that person, but a person. So then narcissist starts to seek validation from other places. Of like, this excitement only got me so far. Now I need to find more of it. Now I need to connect with more people. Now I can actually pay someone to have sex with me. Now I can actually connect with someone who's at work and then have sex with them. Like all these different things come up and you start to see cheating come into the relationship. Okay? Infidelity finds a way to help them keep satisfied for their constant need of attention, admiration, control, disregarding typically any impact it has on your well-being. You see, when a narcissist is cheating, they don't care about you and they don't think about you because you're out of sight, out of mind. It's like, well, if I keep this quiet, she won't know about it. Therefore, she won't get upset. Therefore, she won't feel bad. Therefore, it won't make me feel bad. So why should I even do that? Because it's going to affect me. And so he's just going to keep doing it over and over and over again because it's like, hey, this feels good. This is great. I can control this person. I can keep it under wraps because they don't want to be exposed because they're in a relationship. All this kind of stuff happens. Okay, but oftentimes it just continues to move forward. And some of it might be like, you're like, something's different. I don't know what. And this is the part that's hard because you might have a gut feeling that something's different, but you're like, I don't have any proof. One thing that's interesting is you'll see a difference in the intimacy oftentimes when your partner is cheating. When they're looking at porn too, but when the partner is cheating in particular. You'll see nuances that'll be different. He'll start to kiss you different. He'll start to react different. He'll start to connect or make moves different. And you're like, this is new. It's never been this way, but it feels like old hat for him. That's because he's been doing this with someone else. And so it's like, this feels natural for him. And sometimes in the mind, it's not even about the person, it's about the pleasure. So he's trying to do something in that moment, not even realizing or thinking, oh, this is the wrong person. I'll do this with this person. But he's like, oh, this felt good with this person. Let me do it in this person. Sometimes it ramps up the sexual connection with you and your spouse when he's cheating on you. Like, how does that even make sense? Sometimes it's almost like if they have this connection with the other person, then they start having a different type of connection with you. It's like both people kind of even them out a little bit. Not saying it's like less abusive, but for a period of time, like if the cheating relationship is good, sometimes that makes the relationship seem to function slightly better. There seems to be more of a connection because they're mimicking the things that are happening in the other relationship. Like they're modeling the same almost like love bombing type piece to the other person, sometimes in bed with you. And so it provides this like unique thing of like, wait a second, like this actually has been better than what it is, but he's still abusive. Or like we're connected differently or we're connected more. And it makes this very confusing environment. I feel like I'm confusing myself as I'm trying to say it. But like the whole aspect I'm trying to have you understand is oftentimes when there's this aspect of losing intimacy, it typically for a guy leads back to pornography and cheating. There might be other things, but as a whole. I'm not going to say all, but it's easier if I say all and everybody believes it than it is to just say 99% of the time and then you hold on to that 1%. Mine isn't a cheater, and then you find out 5 years later he's been cheating on you the whole time. Okay, so just understand that a lot of times when there's this lack of intimacy, a lot of times it's an outlet someplace else. Pornography and cheating are probably the most popular ones. Hopefully that makes sense. If this doesn't make sense, leave a comment down below, leave a question, and we'll follow it up with another video or something else that can help you understand more about the topic and more about the nuances of being with a toxic person. If I can help in any way, you can reach out for help. Go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones. I'd love to talk to you there. Have you experienced a narcissist shedding tears, apologizing, promising change, and then turn around and keep hurting you? Like one that begged to come back into your life over and over and over again, and then over a period of the next week, month, or a little bit longer, all of a sudden it continues to change back to the person that says they were going to change, but nothing actually happens. Maybe you find yourself where you're questioning, hey, like, is this emotional display? Is this crying? Is this things that they're actually doing? Are they actually genuine? Or are we back to manipulation? Is it back to control? Join me today as we explore just the complex world of narcissistic behavior and uncover some of the truth behind tears and apologies when a narcissist is saying sorry, and then are they still going to hurt you down the road? If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. When we talk about this aspect of narcissists manipulating, we know narcissists manipulate all the time, lie all the time. Like there's a lot of different things where we're like, okay, yes, this is what narcissists typically do. But what happens when they say sorry? What happens when they actually come about and seem like there's a change in their behavior? Seem like they want to apologize to the fact of actually making a difference, of actually having this happen in a different way. We see a lot of times narcissists that never apologize, that never say anything like I was wrong, I'm sorry, like anything like this, okay? Then we see a big aspect of faux apologies, of ones that you're like, oh, okay, like maybe they're apologizing and it feels like an apology and you step into that when in reality, it's not actually true. So, what do these actually look like? What's actually happening when a narcissist is crying, apologizing, going through this thing, but we're not really seeing anything different? One of the points I want you to know, and you might already know this, is the idea of them having manipulative techniques. Okay? Manipulative techniques and understanding how to exploit your emotions, how to take advantage of your empathy, your sympathy. And so narcissists sometimes will get to the place where they'll cry, they'll say, I'm sorry, they'll express some type of remorse. Typically, it's because they're trying to manipulate you. Now, oftentimes this is to try to get you back in the relationship. Maybe you broke up with them, you said it was done, and then all of a sudden they're begging and banging on your door saying, please let me back into your life, when in reality, nothing's actually changed. So many times we'll find someone who's been in a relationship and the narcissist comes back and they're begging to be back in their life. They let them back in only to find that he's been with someone else the entire time. So there wasn't even an aspect of like, let me leave, let me not be with someone else and be with you. It's like, no, like I'm with someone and I'm crying, begging to get back into your life while I'm still with someone. We see this so often because a lot of times narcissists want to have their cake and eat it too. Want to be with you and then be with someone else. Want to be communicating with you and someone else. And so typically when you see this aspect of crying, a lot of times narcissists will use this as leverage to make you feel bad for them, to want to suck you in, to want to get you stuck in the toxic relationship. Now, with this manipulative tactic, it's easy for you to want to be like, oh my gosh, like, yes, they're finally getting it. They're finally changing. This is where talk is cheap. And we want to see actual actions, demonstration, okay? Because a narcissist is going to use these tactics to maintain control over you, like over the victim, over the target that they're actually going on. Like this is going to keep you entangled in this toxic dynamic, not knowing what do you actually do? How do you actually move forward? Because you're like, but they're changing. And then we start to build this level of like hope and potential that you start to believe in versus the truth, versus the reality of the situation that they haven't actually demonstrated change. Oftentimes you'll see this when a narcissist comes back into your life and they have no demonstration of change, but they keep saying everything's changed. They keep saying everything's better. And you're like, okay, show me the proof. Well, I'm just better. I worked on it. And there's not really good data to be able to back it up. And you have to get really, really factual. Otherwise, you'll get sucked back in to toxicity. Now, think of it this way. A narcissist, especially along the lines of like a covert narcissist, might shed tears and might get to the place of having a seeming heartful apology. Like I actually care about this, all these different things. But it's typically after this episode of abuse, mistreatment, you kick them out. It's after something that's happened. Okay, this typically will make you start to think that they're being vulnerable. Okay, that they've actually got to the place of like, oh, they've figured it out. But oftentimes, in this aspect, it's going to make you start to doubt your own perceptions and grant them another chance. Not just for the cycle, for like a lot of times for the cycle of manipulation just to keep going. And harm to keep happening. And the things to keep happening over and over and over again. So then you have this aspect of strategic empathy. Okay, we haven't ever really talked about it in this light, but narcissists have this capacity for different levels of empathy. Now you're like, wait a second, like we always heard that narcissists have no empathy. Okay, what you need to understand is even in the DSM-5, it says that they lack empathy or is unwilling to acknowledge or identify with the feelings and needs of others. So what this is actually showing is it's not that all narcissists have zero empathy, have no regard for emotions or feelings. Like they're still human. They still have these things. Okay. However, when we talk about this aspect of empathy, a lot of narcissists are unwilling to acknowledge your feelings and needs because of what it says about them. Now, if you're there and you're crying because I just did something to hurt you, why would I show empathy? Because then that makes me look bad. Makes me look bad because I'm the one that hurt you. Okay. A little bit of circular reasoning, but that's still how it goes, okay? So trying to break it down so you understand. When you get to this piece of like narcissists using empathy strategically, it's this aspect of mimicking other people's empathy, mimicking moments of remorse, mimicking of like, okay, this is how someone acts when something's going on this way. This is how someone acts when they're sorry, okay? Typically in this aspect, it is a calculated move. Like it is like, let me see what can I do to be able to maintain control and fix the distorted image that I have there. Because this person now sees me in a different light, reality, but this person now sees me in a different light. What do I need to do to fix it? Well, I need to get back with them. I need to show that I'm a good guy. I need to show them that I really care, even though I've cheated. Like I need to show them all these different things. Okay, so it's like, let me figure out what I need to do to be able to get back with this person, okay? Or to be able to get past this impasse that we're at because of my actions. A lot of times the difference is the tears and the apologies are not motivated by this genuine desire to understand the pain and to heal the pain that they've caused. Typically it's like, how do I fix this? How do I get back with you? How do we move on? Like all of it is geared that direction. Okay, you're gonna see this after. Think of it this way: when the narcissist is crying, apologizing, all this stuff, you're gonna see it right after. Okay, right after is in like a day or a week because they'll oscillate back and forth. They won't be able to sit in it. Okay, now what I mean is that is like they're not gonna be able to sit in the tears and apologies like forever. Typically, hardly ever. Okay, maybe a little bit of the vulnerable side of the narcissist, but like typically not. Because it's going to be like, okay, I cried about it, now it should be fixed. And then you bring it up the next day, like, oh, we're back at this again, I already apologized, I thought we got through this. And it'll go back and forth. It'll help you understand, if you see this, the ups and the downs of like tears, frustration, there's this aspect there that's what's happening, so you're not able to actually like regulate it. Okay, so it's like, oh, let me do the tears so that I can get past this. And then when it's not passed, then I get frustrated because like I paid the price. I gave you my tears, so we should be past this, right? Transactional. Okay. Now, a lot of times you'll see this even after like an argument, betrayal, sometimes even after like physical abuse. Okay, where the narcissist will hurt you, and then all of a sudden they'll start crying, and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and promising changed behavior. Okay, this is future faking. This is when the narcissist keeps saying, I'm going to be different, I'm going to change, I'm going to try, I'm going to go to therapy, all this different stuff, but their words and tears oftentimes are just very short-lived, and they're just used as a way to get your trust back, okay, to keep you engaged in the relationship. And typically their actions never come alongside and never align with the remorseful words. You never see that actually go to the next level of seeing it actually happen, okay? Then we walk into the piece of it just being a cycle. Over and over and over again. Okay, oftentimes you hear it talked about with alternating phases of love bombing, devaluation, discard. Okay, then you put in the tears and apologies to get you back, to hoover you back. Okay, either in the love bombing stage of like, let me love bomb you, let me show you how much I love you, how much I care about you, let me show you how much I love you and I care about you to get back with you. All those different pieces where the narcissist tries to regain control of the situation, to like reel you back in. Okay, but then what happens is there hasn't been a change in the behavior. There hasn't been a true transformation in how they actually show up. So as a result, the cycle just keeps going on over and over and over again. You might have seen this even growing up, where you had a parent that might apologize for how they responded, for their harsh words or neglectful actions. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry about this. And they seem to express regret or pain. They make promises to be a better parent, to create a loving environment, but it doesn't actually show up. And this quote unquote remorse is short-lived. The hurtful behavior resurfaces, leaving you trapped in this cycle of emotional turmoil. Whether it's in a toxic relationship, in a parenting relationship, whatever it might be, this you'll see over and over and over again with certain types of narcissists, where they will cry, they will try to be sorry, they will try to say all these things, but it doesn't actually produce changed behavior. Did your narcissist lie to you? Did they tell you one thing and it'd be completely opposite? Did they lie to you about cheating on you? Lie to you about where they went? Lie to you about what they got at the grocery store? Lie to you about what they ate? A lot of times we see narcissists that will lie to you over and over and over again. I want to walk you through a little bit of progression about narcissists lying to you and the effect it has on you, and also some of the path to move forward in that healing process. When you think about this aspect of a narcissist lying, like I want you to picture already you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you're with someone that you love and that you care about, and you're not expecting this person to lie to you. Then all of a sudden it starts to come out, you start to see different pieces, and you're like, wait a second, this doesn't add up. This doesn't match up the facts of what I actually know. Typically you get to a place where you'll explain it away, you'll confuse yourself, you'll put in cognitive dissonance, you'll be like, well, they must not mean it. It must be something different than what it actually is. And as a result, you'll get to the place where you'll believe something that's not completely true. A lot of times you'll run into this aspect of this emotional duress that will cause different levels of anxiety that will not only hurt you, but hurt your body and hurt a lot of different pieces about your life that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. When we think this aspect of narcissist lying, it's important to be able to separate like the difference between truth and between fiction. And this gets really hard when you're talking to a toxic person, when you're interacting with a toxic person on a day-to-day basis, because you're not sure what is actually true. And you're discussing like, hey, like this has a huge emotional impact on me if you're lying. Like if you're not telling me the truth, this is going to destroy me. This is going to hurt me in multiple ways. But it doesn't seem like the other person cares. First off, I want to be able to touch on like what it actually does to you. Like how it affects you, how it hurts you. One of the aspects is how it impacts your body, like on a physical state, where all of a sudden you're at the place where you have high anxiety because you don't know what to actually believe. You start to have hair loss. You start to have autoimmune disease. You start to have things that have never happened before in your body that suddenly start to happen due to the stress, due to the confusion of the lies. You start to have this impact your own being of what's actually going on inside, eroding your self-doubt, like hurting you, making you question your own perception of reality, wondering, is this true? Is this not true? And you're not even sure who to believe anymore. A lot of times this affects your relationships, not just with that person, but with your family, with your kids who you're trying to be able to lead, but you're not sure what to even tell them because you don't even know what's true from your partner. Or maybe what to be able to tell your friends and family outside of the relationship because you're ashamed, or because you're afraid that they're going to judge you because of being with someone who's continuing to lie. And so it slowly isolates you. It makes you feel like there's no one else experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. A lot of times it bleeds over, the stress bleeds over into how you're showing up in your business. This aspect where it makes it really hard for you to even make decisions in a business that you normally would have no problem making. But now it seems like difficult because you don't know who you are. You don't know what to believe. And you're so clouded in the fog of decision making because of the toxicity that you've been put through and all the deceit and lies that have been placed upon you. I want to ask you today, how does that make you feel? Like, how does that feel just understanding and seeing the impact? Because if we don't create a space and a container for you to be able to understand how much it has hurt and how much has it affected you, we're not going to be able to create a movement forward of you actually wanting to change, of you actually wanting to develop that thought process, that idea of, I want this healing no matter what. Like, I want this healing that helps me shift the focus from the pain to what could actually be possible. Of like understanding the motivation behind a narcissist lying, their image, the ego, the shame avoidance, all those different pieces, understanding that and then getting to the place of acknowledging what could actually be true. Like, what if you were able to be at a place where you had clarity, where you understood and you could expose the lies, not just because you knew all the facts around the lies, but because you knew the truth for you. You didn't spend as much time defending yourself against the narcissist lying. You didn't spend so much time worrying about what he's saying about you or how he's impacting your life because you know who you are. What would that actually look like in your life? How would that show up in your life? What if you could actually be free and experience a liberation and empowerment that comes with recognizing and addressing the lies, having clarity in those decisions on a day-to-day basis? Who could you be without that thought limiting you and holding you back? Like, I just want you to picture just for a moment, what if you were free from the narcissist lies? Who would you be? How would you show up differently? What could actually be possible? What would that look like impacting with your kids? How would that affect your decision making in your business? How would that actually show up on a day-to-day basis of you investing into yourself with self-care, with self-love, with self-development? What would that look like? What would that feel like? We need to be able to understand and step through some of the principles. Some of the aspects to have you understand and be able to walk through this aspect of the narcissist lying to you and the effect it has on you. How do we actually get to those possibilities? First aspect is identifying the core beliefs that you need to address and navigate the narcissist lies. One of the aspects is belief in your own worth and the right to the truth. You see, a narcissist will make you feel like you don't have a right to the truth, that it's not your right to even know what the truth actually is. Typically, a narcissist believes that they operate in a silo and everything that they do only affects them, when in reality it affects you at the same time. But a narcissist doesn't want to admit that. They don't want to connect with that. Because if they do, then they have to be accountable for their own actions. You get beat down so much for your worth, being able to take a step back and understand, hey, my worth is not defined by his opinion of me. My worth is not defined by what he's actually saying about me. My worth is not defined by another person, but it's defined by you. This comes as you develop this worth aspect. This comes in by setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries that are for you, not for the other person, not rules, regulations, and limits for the other person, but boundaries that are for you, saying, hey, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to live. And as a result, it starts to open up this door of self-validation and discernment where you're able to discern what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true, and move in the direction that you want to move. Keeping boundaries as guardrails to keep you guided in the right direction, to help you move forward. Now, this all comes with an aspect of shifting your mindset to be able to help navigate the lies. Some of it is just simply shifting from self-blame to recognizing that the lies are a reflection of the narcissist's manipulative behavior. You didn't cause him to lie, just like you didn't cause him to cheat, just like you didn't cause him to yell at you. You're going to feel that way because he's going to put that on you. He's going to blame you. He's going to project that. He's going to make you feel bad about yourself. You did not cause that. Understanding this self-awareness piece and thinking critically of like, what are actually the facts that actually show me what's the true? Did I do this? I said this and he had this type of response. Did I make him do that? No, it was a choice. Did I make him cheat on me? No, it was a choice. Understanding that those lies come from the narcissist and they're not from you. But we have to get really clear of what are the facts of the situation. One of the things we focus on constantly inside the Thriver community is what are the facts? Tell me the facts. Tell me the things that support that story, that support this idea, that deny that story, that deny this idea, so we can get very, very clear in our critical thinking skills so that you move from the place of the fog into the clarity. And this is helpful for you moving forward of understanding the story you believe. The story you believe touches in the beliefs that you currently have that leave you locked in a toxic relationship or leave you locked in the mindset that this person cares about you when they're not demonstrating that. This shows up in understanding, hey, you have a right to honesty. You have a right to transparency in the relationship. You need to be able to understand how we develop this discerning mindset. And it comes back down to the aspect of understanding the story that you believe and how you find that and how you understand that on a day-to-day basis. So we have to be able to put this together in a path and a direction for you to be able to move. Part of it is understanding a roadmap, like creating a roadmap of understanding and addressing the narcissist lies. Educating yourself on narcissistic patterns. What does that actually look like? What's triangulation? What are these red flags? What is gaslighting? What are all the different nuances of it? How do we navigate those things? Getting to a place where you're seeking support from other people, from coaches, from support groups, from different people to understand it, but then also to say, hey, you're not alone. You're not left in this all alone. There's other people that have walked the same exact road as you, and they're thriving, and they're moving forward in their growth. Being able to help you understand and realize how to rewire your mindset by dealing with the story that you believe. That cognitive dissonance piece of two opposing thoughts at the same time, and you develop another thought that just says, this must be what it is. He just has bad communication. He's just going through a rough time. He's just really under a lot of stress. Being able to understand the story you believe and the facts, the discerning idea of like, wait a second, is this true or not true? How does it support or not support what's actually going on? And as a result, as you start to get clear about what is actually true and factual, you're able to know who you are and you're able to establish healthy boundaries. If you're understanding the direction that we're talking here, if you're understanding these steps, like just type in the chat, like I get it, because I need you to understand this. I need you to see the interaction that we have to be able to move you through a progression, through a step. We've put this together in multiple different ways inside of the Thriver community, inside of the Clarity Challenge, but ultimately to make it be a step-by-step progression of you to understand, of you to get involved in community, of you to have action plans to help move you forward, and for you to be able to maximize on your growth and on your development. But you have to make a decision of how long will the narcissist lies actually control you. They'll control you for a period of time, then you leave the relationship, and then the thought of those lies, his voice in your head years later will still be controlling you with limiting beliefs, with limiting thoughts that will not let you grow, heal, change, and develop, will not let you rise to the person you're called to be. Have you ever wondered why narcissists seem to understand you so well? At the beginning, it seems like your soulmates. It seems like it's the most perfect person, and they get you, right? Like you share stuff, and they're like, yeah, and you're like, wow, like this is like the first person that really connects, that it really gets me, and then it ends up coming out later that they're toxic and narcissistic and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but like you get to the place where they're mirroring. We're gonna talk about this today, but like, why do they actually mirror your desires, your interests, your values early on in the relationship? Today, we're gonna jump in. We're gonna talk about 3 reasons why narcissists mirror you. How this actually works, of mirroring to manipulate to control to multiple different pieces here. So we're going to jump in to be able to talk about mirroring. Okay. Now, if you don't know what mirroring is, it oftentimes can look different depending on the situation, depending on the circumstance. Ideally, and the easiest way to be able to describe it is a mirror. Like literally taking you and giving a reflection of you back to you to make you fall in love with a version of you that's not actually you, but actually is the narcissist. We'll go with that for now, okay? The main thing is like, hey, like it's a quality that you like that all of a sudden they like that's not inherently something they like. It's just something they are mirroring back to you. That you're like, oh, I like this, and they have a mirror, and you like see, oh, like they like this too. Like, no, it's actually you liking it, but they're pretending that way it feels better, okay? And we're going to dive into that a little bit. All right, hopefully this makes sense. We're going to roll with this today. My name is Ben Taylor, self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. So we try to dive in and be able to break things down from a different standpoint, from the narcissist standpoint, and to be able to help you understand more about what narcissism is and how it actually shows up. Your guide in the 7-day challenge called Escape Toxicity. It's a $7 challenge. You can jump in anytime, lifetime access. You join a group that's on there and you start going through day by day for a little bit over a week, sharing some of your homework, working together to be able to understand like, hey, this is narcissistic abuse. This is the fog that I'm in. This is the guilt that I'm struggling through. Let's work through that. We show you how we start to teach, how we start to build a baseline, a foundation for you to be able to step into there, learn, and then step to the next level and get to the healing that you actually deserve and that you need to move on in the relationship to the next relationship with healthy boundaries. Okay? So when we talk about this piece of mirroring, narcissists that mimic your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors to create a false connection, to create intimacy, I want to dive in and like look into some of it. Okay, so the first thing that I want to be able to point off with this is the reason why a narcissist mirrors you is first off to gain your trust and your adoration. Okay, admiration, whatever you want to call it. Okay, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, let me get you to trust me. And oftentimes this is done really quickly, really fast to be able to establish a bond with the target. Okay, so the target's here, and like I have to build a connection really quick and really fast. So if I can do this by mirroring what you like and making you think that I like what you like automatically, then you start to believe that we're soulmates. You start to believe that we have this great compatibility, that we have this great connection by mirroring your interests, your beliefs, your values. And a lot of times I would do this on multiple different levels. One of the easiest ones for me was like movies and music, okay, like super easy. Like someone's like, I love this music, and I'm like, oh my gosh, me too. Like it's the same exact thing. And so a narcissist a lot of times will try to get to the place of saying like, hey, like I like what you like. When in reality, there's actually not a depth there. In reality, it's not something that the narcissist even cares about. This is why sometimes you'll see narcissists that struggle to even have like hobbies. You know, stuff that's like, okay, a little bit different that they enjoy, because a lot of times that quote unquote joy for narcissists that doesn't really exist is fleeting. It's like looking for something that doesn't actually exist. So like there might be something that they sort of like to do, but it's not something that really matters that much. And so as a result, a lot of times they're more of like a shell of like, I don't really have a ton of things I like, and they feed off of other people. Like they pick off different things. So like my music style has changed radically over the years, just depending on the person that I was with. Like the dating or the affairs I was with, all of those developed a different music style. Like someone to say, oh, I like this artist or I like this type of music, I'd start listening to that. That way I knew more about it. That way I could make sure I could mirror it back to them of this is something I like too. And so this creates this illusion of a connection and a compatibility like really, really, really fast on so many different levels. Like if you end up connecting with someone, and a lot of times connecting just because like you share the same values, you share the same ideas, you share the same interests, and you're like, whoa, this person is an awesome person. Well, a lot of times it's because it's reflecting you back to you. Now, caveat with this, because sometimes people take a piece of this and they run with this being like the narcissist was attracted to you because of your intrinsic worth, because of all this good stuff, because of how amazing you are. Okay, there's a piece of that the narcissist is attracted to something there that they want to be able to manipulate and control, or something there that they want to be able to apply to their own lives. Now, the difference is it's not because you're so amazing in the narcissist's eyes. It's because they want something from you. It's because it's a transaction. A lot of times people get it kind of skewed up of like, oh, they care about me because they want this, or they want this because I'm such an amazing person. Narcissist doesn't really care if you're an amazing person or not. Narcissist cares what they get out of you. That's it. Okay. Side note, soapbox. Just want to be able to say that. Okay. When we talk about this initial mirroring, like it allows a narcissist to start to gain trust and to lay the groundwork for manipulation. Okay. So think of it this way, like in early stages of a relationship, like very early on, love bombing, going through this, narcissists might express a strong interest for your hobbies, show enthusiasm for your passions, and align their values with you. They mirror your preferences of like, I want to do this too. Like this is, you do that exact way. Me too. Like it's weird. But all of a sudden you start figuring out and finding out like this person seems like exactly like me. Like they seem to model and do the same things as me. Like that's why we're perfect together, right? But they mirror your preferences to make you believe that you found someone who truly understands and truly appreciates you. The difference is there's not that level of truly understanding and truly appreciating, not a depth to it. It's just a mask. The second reason why a narcissist mirrors you is to create this emotional connection. We often refer to it as a bond, and then it moves into a trauma bond. Mirroring serves as this powerful tool for narcissists to create emotional connections with the targets, and like we mentioned, to do it quickly. But when they reflect your emotions and experiences, they make you feel a certain way. They make you feel heard. They make you feel validated. Like you make you feel like they actually understand you. But you see, when a narcissist reflects this back to you, it means that he doesn't actually have to open up and show his own emotions and his own feelings. So for him, it's like, oh, this is safe. I don't have to be vulnerable. I don't have to show the shit inside. I can just reflect back to you and you like it. So it's perfect. Let me do that. This like emotional mirroring oftentimes gets to a place where they're fostering like this sense of intimacy. And it makes it difficult for you to recognize hidden motives because they're connecting with you so much. Like, you're like, why would this person hurt me? Like, why would this person be mean to me? Because, like, we have this connection because, like, it's great together. When in reality, it's just a manipulation. It's just a moment to be able to move forward. Sometimes you're going to see this in the aspect of, like, joy, sadness, frustration. And the narcissist is going to try to mimic those. And you'll start to pick up on it when you see it the first time of, like, wait a second, it is there, but it just felt different. Something felt off. It even felt like fake or even felt forced. Sometimes you'll see that with a narcissist trying to display empathy or compassion. There's been multiple times where like I've realized in the moment, okay, like my wife might need a hug or my wife might need this. And then I'm like, okay, like let me do it. And it was out of like obligation, right? It was out of like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do as a nice human being. So go give a hug. She feels it, right? Like it's not something that's like, oh my gosh, like he's actually compassionate. No, like she would feel it. She'd be like, you okay? Like something's off. I'd be like, pat, good, you're good to go, that kind of thing. And like she would feel it. It would be different because the narcissist doesn't have this like depth there of the emotions and the feelings that they're willing to tap into. That as a result, it makes it difficult to be able to show those deep emotions. But a narcissist will do anything they can at that point to manipulate and make you believe that they're genuinely caring about you, that they're actually sharing the emotional experience, that they're forging this deep connection, and it just reinforces their control over you, okay? So the third reason why narcissists mirror you is to shift blame and deflect responsibility. Now, narcissists are great at doing this on all different levels, and we see this all the time, but they use this tactic of mirroring to actually try to be able to get away from taking responsibility. And what that happens in the toxicity piece, when they mirror your behavior, they're like shifting the focus back onto you. Oftentimes, this is like direct mirroring of like, well, I think you're cheating on me. What? Why would I even do that? I think you're cheating on me because of this. So it's like shoving it back. It's kind of like blame shifting. It's just moving it back and forth. But by taking this aspect of trying to mirror your behavior, they're trying to make you focus on you and question your own thoughts and feelings. Okay, now we're moving into gaslighting and making you doubt your current reality, the things that are currently going on. This is a gaslighting technique, and it enables narcissists to actually avoid like the accountability. Like I need to be able to avoid the accountability, the responsibility as best I can so I can maintain control over you and make sure you're only looking at the situation a certain way. Think about it this way. Like it happens the majority of the time when you confront a narcissist by something that's hurtful. Like you may confront them and they're going to bounce it right back at you. I just feel like you're being emotionally abusive. I've been trying to communicate with you, but like you come across really abusive. Like when I open up to you, like you never even make me feel heard. And you're like, wait a second, that's how I feel. And he's like, no, that's how I feel. And so like it's like switching it around. And then they're going to try to make you doubt your reality by you're overreacting, you're just as guilty, you're oversensitive by mirroring your emotional response. So like you might this is why it doesn't work a lot of times to even respond to a narcissist emotionally, because when you do this, they'll either use it against you like vulnerability, or they'll mirror it back to you and you'll be like, well, I don't know how to deal with that, because now he's saying he feels like he's abused, but I'm the one that's been abused. So like it gets confusing that way. But by mirroring this way, the whole goal is like, let me redirect the blame back onto you so that I don't have to feel bad about myself, and so that you're confused and you doubt your own judgment. If you're at this place where you're like, I'm confused, and you've experienced like devastating effects of narcissistic manipulation, if you're seeking support and guidance, I want to invite you to go to our 7-day challenge at escapetoxicity.com. For only $7, you'll gain valuable tools, insights, and assets to be able to provide you with a supportive community and help you break free from toxic relationships. If you're at the place where you're like, hey, I want to accelerate, I want to move forward faster, and you want to work with me one-on-one, would love to reach out. Just go to www.rawmotivation.com. Would love to interact with you. Would love to help you. We've got links down in the bios for everybody to be able to look at too. But we'd love to be able to help you move forward and understand why the narcissist is mirroring you, so that you can be empowered of how to actually deal with it. A narcissist never seems to regret anything that they've ever done. In fact, they never seem to even get to the place where they apologize or they come across saying, I'm sorry. Why would they? They didn't do anything wrong in their mind. So why would it actually matter? And why would a narcissist actually want to apologize? Now, that might be true in the majority of the cases out there, but you also might be looking at it and say, like, wait a second, like, my narcissist has actually apologized every once in a while. Like, he's actually said sorry when I've called him out, when I've caught him at different things. That doesn't make sense. Is he a narcissist now? Maybe he's not a narcissist now. Now, I want to be able to first point out that a lot of times people will look at one little nuance and then be able to make the judgment of like, they're narcissistic or they're not narcissistic. Narcissism is defined in the DSM-5 with 9 different characteristics, and you need to have at least 9 of them to be considered a narcissist, and the habitual pattern of it actually happening in the relationship, in their life for a long period of time. So like, don't make the judgment really quick just off of that. Just because they do or they don't apologize or say that they're sorry doesn't mean that they are or they aren't a narcissist. Okay, now, first off, that's just to make sure everybody's clear on that. Second off, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations and your guide in the Escape Toxicity, the 7-day challenge to healing. The 7-day challenge to healing is housed at escapetoxicity.com. It's $7 for 7 days that you can start to dive in and understand narcissistic abuse, reactive abuse, and to show up in a way in a community there that's helping support you as you continue to go through your healing journey. So check that out. Go to escapetoxicity.com. Well, when we talk about narcissists that apologize, it normally seems like an oxymoron. Like a narcissist that apologizes normally never even happens. Where like typically this isn't the norm. This doesn't actually come about on a typical day where a narcissist will be like, hey, I'm sorry that I did this. I was wrong. Let me change that. And that's typically because with grandiose, with overt narcissists, we typically don't see it ever. Like at all. Like there's no apology. There's no thought process of that. Now, typically it's because there's no regret. There's no remorse for the actions that have actually happened. Why should I have remorse for you when I did something that I was entitled to do? When this is something that I felt like I should be allowed to do or that I was able to do. So there's an aspect of like, because the entitlement, why should there even be an apology? For a lot of narcissists, the aspect of an apology means weakness. Like it means that I'm not good enough in the aspect of, hey, I've been a perfect person. Now I'm not good enough. That shows weakness. That shows that I'm not the person that I said I was going to be. It shows this disconnect, this incongruence of the narcissist and the mask that they actually put up. So for me, like I never wanted to apologize because that was like a chink in my armor. That was like exposing. That was the vulnerability piece of like, wait a second, if I open up, then I'm actually going to have to say like, hey, I was wrong. That something I did wasn't actually the way I thought it was. Because I thought I was great. I thought I was a perfect person. I thought I was the best person ever. So as a result, like I wanted to keep that image, right? Like I wanted to make sure that this is how I look. This is how I was. So this apology piece for me shows weakness because it shows that they're wrong. For me, like, I didn't want to show weakness by being wrong. So I never would say I was wrong. I would never say you were right. I would never say I'm sorry, da 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 da, because I didn't want to actually own up to the fact that I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that caused the hurt in the first place. Then there's also this aspect of empathy that plays in here, of the narcissist knowing and understanding empathy. Majority of narcissists at least know cognitive empathy, but there's this aspect of like, wait a second, like if I know that this person's hurting because of me, there's a piece that I know I should help, but I don't want to, because if I help, then I will actually validate that what I did was wrong. What I did was hurtful to the other person. So as a result, it's like, let me avoid that as much as I can. Let me get away from that as much as I can, versus actually owning it and saying, hey, this is what actually happened. Now, you have narcissists that you won't see an apology because they want to avoid it. They want to avoid like the shit that they've done. They want to avoid like, hey, this is the thing that I've actually caused. This is the pain that I've hurt. Now, with covert narcissists, sometimes you'll start to see that type of narcissist leverage an apology for more manipulation. Sometimes it's to get out of something. Sometimes it's to get you into something. Sometimes it's to convince you of something, whatever it might be. The whole aspect is sometimes there's the leverage here of using an apology for manipulation so the narcissist can get what they want or avoid what they're being held accountable. Now, again, you might be at the place where you're like, wait a second, mine started to apologize. Does that mean they have changed behavior? Maybe he's different now. Maybe he's actually learning. Maybe he's getting it. Well, the thing you have to understand is sometimes those apologies are fake. Sometimes those apologies are things that they're using to try to get you to stay in the relationship. Now, if you're getting ready to leave the relationship and there's apology, it's very suspicious versus like, wait a second, where were you the past 6 years where you could have apologized to this? Now I'm leaving, it matters. Now I'm leaving, it's changed. No, it doesn't work that way. Now you're actually setting to the other person. You're setting the example and you're saying, hey, I'm going to be independent of you. And they're like, no, you're not. Let me go ahead and bring you back. Let me apologize, quote unquote, to get to the place of saying, make sure you stay with me. Now, because a lot of times a narcissist, when they apologize, which doesn't happen very often, but when they do apologize, a lot of times it is fake. It is a way to be able to secure you, to be able to keep you in the relationship over and over and over again. You'll see this where you'll break up, they'll apologize, you'll get back together. You'll break up, they'll apologize, get back together. And this cycle will continue. And you'll be like, it's getting better. We've only broken up 5 times this month instead of 20. And you're like, but it still hasn't actually improved. It's just they've adapted, they've modified some of the things that they're doing and saying to be able to get to the end result of still being in control of you. So let's talk about some of the fake apologies that we see narcissists use. One of the aspects of a fake apology is where it is twisted around to be our fault. Now, narcissists will tell you that it's your fault time and time again because they don't want to be accountable. So it's like, let me avoid it. Let me put it on you. Let me project the pain. Let me project the stuff that's wrong onto you. So a narcissist a lot of times will put it on you. But then they'll drop the Y and then they'll have our fault. So it's your fault. Drop the Y. Now it's our fault. It's the same package. It's the same pile of shit that they're giving to you every single time. The difference is you actually accept it. So he's like, hey, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. You're like, no, it's not. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's actually our fault. Like we caused this together. It was our own issue. Like we both have some toxic traits, right? And so you're like, yeah, I guess I did respond bad that one time, after you beat me, like all these different things. Like you start to say different things, and then narcissist is like, yes, like she agreed. It's our fault, which means it's not my fault, which means it's her fault. So I'm off the hook. Literally, like that's like if you break it down step by step, like that's the thought process of let me put it on you so I don't feel bad about myself, and then it's no longer my fault because it's also your fault, which means it's not my fault. Okay? Then you have the aspect of narcissists that apologize that always use the but. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have done this, but this type of aspect. Like, but this happened. You're going to see this a lot of times with the narcissist that's apologizing, but they want to make it turned around back on you. So, I'm sorry that I screamed at you, but if you'd listened to me, I wouldn't have had to raise my voice. But I'm sorry I cheated on you, but if you wouldn't have, if you would have actually given me the sex I wanted, I wouldn't have gone out with that person. I'm sorry that I lied to you, but I was afraid that you'd be mad at me. So I decided not to tell you. Like, always trying to flip it around and put it back on you. So that it's your fault. So it's not their fault. So they don't have any ownership of the actual fault, and it's all back on you. But it's subtle, right? Like, hey, I'm really sorry I did that. I shouldn't have done that. And then it goes into how you contributed to their actions, how you contributed to what they did wrong. End of the day, you need to know, like, the narcissist makes their own decision. You don't force them to make a decision. You don't make them choose to cheat. You don't make them lie to you. You don't make them do anything. If anything, narcissists are like the least of the people that you actually can make do anything, but it's the most of the people that everybody thinks they can do something to change them. And you need to be able to understand the narcissist is making a decision every single day to do the things they do. Be like, but it's a disorder. It's still a decision. But like they're stuck that way mentally. It's still a decision. People just don't want to own it. I'd rather just slap a label on it and be like, oh, like it's fine. They do that. No, it's not fine. Just because they have a personality disorder doesn't mean they have to be abusive. You could look at me. You could look at Lee Hammock. You could look at other narcissists out there that are self-aware that are actually trying to work on themselves. There is a difference because there is a choice. People just don't normally make the choice. All right. Sidetrack. So let's jump back on. Apologies that are fake. I'm sorry that you felt that way. Okay, so it seems like, hey, this is something that I'm apologizing for, but, it's actually, the only reason I'm apologizing is because you have an issue and because you actually brought this up, because you felt this way. That's not reality. That's that's ridiculous, but you felt this way, so I'm sorry you felt that way. Like, kind of move through it, okay? Then you have this aspect of, like, vague, where narcissists will apologize, but it's extremely, extremely vague. Like, there's no specifics. I'm sorry I didn't make the best decision. Like, no, you cheated on me for 2 years. Like, you need to get a little bit more, like, specific of, like, do you actually know that this is wrong? Well, yeah, we just didn't have a good connection. And so there's going to be different pieces that, like, you'll see an apology, but it'll be extremely vague. Okay? Then you have apology without ownership of, like, where they're apologizing, but they never take responsibility and ownership of their actions. Like, I'm sorry that happened, but this happened. Kind of going back to the butt a little bit. And then apology with distraction. So apologizing and then future faking, apologizing, then love bombing, apologizing, then gaslighting, all the different pieces there. So it feels like an apology, but it's just manipulating you to a different aspect, to a different way. So a lot of times you don't see an apology with a narcissist. But what you also don't see is, like, when a narcissist does apologize, you don't see specific accountability. Like, you don't see actual plans and actual steps of them to heal, grow, and change and develop. So, like, a narcissist will say, hey, I'm sorry that I'm yelling at you. And you're like, okay, what are you going to do different? And he's like, well, next time I just won't yell at you. And you're like, oh, great, he came up with the best idea ever. Like, no, like, it's not actually going to work because the narcissist is not going to actually implement that idea because there's nothing that I can actually do. Because they're not even working on their triggers or their emotions or the things that are going on underneath that are compelling them in that motion every single time. So you need to be able to have someone who's actually, if they're apologizing, that they have a specific accountability of how they're going to fix it, what they're going to work on. Asking for forgiveness specifically. I did this to you. This is what I actually did. Like, making sure they actually own it. If not, it'll just be very vague and you won't actually get a real apology. Then you have to make sure they're not quantifying it and they're not adding on to it. But, like, no, this is actually what it is. This is what it is. Now, end of the day, here's what the last thing you need to be able to know. An apology without changed behavior is manipulation. Say it again for the people in the back. An apology without changed behavior is manipulation. So you need to be able to understand if you're with a narcissist and they are apologizing time and time and time again, but you don't see any change in the relationship, you don't see any change in how they're showing up, understand that you're just being manipulated. At that point, you need to reach out for help. Would love to be able to talk to you. If you work with us, that's great. If you don't work with us, that's great too. But you need to find someone that's going to help you. If you want to work with me one-on-one, you can go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones. Would love to help you understand how we help people heal, grow, change, and develop. Work exclusively for people, like with people inside of our Thriver community, helping them with all the nuances, with all the small things. It's helping maximize who they are as they heal, and then as they start to grow and develop into the person that they're called to be. So check it out. Go to rawmotivations.com.